Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno episode 230, where are we up to? 238, and this is show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show. I usually go least favorite to pick of the week, so let's get started. This week I had a bit of a more normal pull list compared to last week, which was a little less, but this week I had 18 comics. So number 18 was Carson Has an Interstellar Eye, issue 2. I do like this series, and there's definitely moments I enjoyed here, like Chloe exploring what she thinks about her family history. I enjoyed that, but all the other high fantasy journey, which I know is a big part of this book, I wasn't connecting to as much here compared to other issues. I feel like there's less character moments than what we've gotten. So overall, I gave this one 2 stars, and that is number 18. Moving on to number 17, which is Kick-Ass issue 3, which I think I might officially drop, which I don't want to because I do have every other Kick-Ass issue, but I just can't get into this character. Why this was higher than Kate Carson, though, is that I did like her encountering her brother-in-law. I thought that was okay, that's somewhat of a hook, but at the same time I don't really care for the character, so it wasn't enough for me to say I need issue 4. I'm also not a big fan of John Romita Jr.'s artwork, even though I think he has his strongest artwork in the Kick-Ass franchise. So I think I'm gonna drop this one, trying to stick with Hit Girl. We'll see how long I can stay on that one, but overall giving this one 2 stars, and that is number 17. Moving on to number 16, which is Avengers, issue 689. And this issue, it's plain action. That's kind of what this series has been about. But there are some cool action character moments, I would say, like Wasp and Nadia working together. I thought was fun. Just learning more about Voyager and all the moments where they're like, we are the Avengers, this is what it's about. So I feel like if you are looking for more like a blockbuster superhero event, read this one. There's not a ton of substance in it, but there's some cool action sequences that you may enjoy, and I guess that's how I've been semi-enjoying this one a bit more. So Avengers issue 689 gets 3 stars, and that is number 16. Moving on to number 15, which is Injustice 2, issue 24. This one is just a lot of setup, and also a lot of action as well, but it's, you know, Supergirl finally getting into the action. I wanted more Jason Todd, especially after the reveal last issue, which I really liked, and also just more fun character moments, like we got last issue. We didn't get as much here, which is why it's a little lower, but still it's a great book, and this might have been a slower issue, but I'm sure it's going to build up into something cool. So when I did like that last panel with Blue Beetle saying, it's a Supergirl, I thought that was fun. So I gave that 3 stars, and that is number 15. Moving on to number 14, which is The Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows, issue 18. And this would have been higher if I enjoyed the artwork more. I think it's the coloring, maybe, that's kind of getting me not to like this. I feel like it's very damp coloring. So I don't know. It's just been a weird art style for me. But yeah, with this issue though, I like Annie kind of going on her own and being her own hero, and her parents trusting her to do so. I think they intertwined Normie storyline well. Was it mind-blowing? No, but I think it was a fun read if you've been following this series. So I gave this one 3.5 stars. Moving on to number 13, which is Mr. Miracle issue 8, which has been a lot higher recently, but definitely understood the concept here. I just didn't really like the actual apocalypse story, which is, I guess, been something that I have grown to really like as the series went on. But I remember when I first picked it up, because I'm not in, I didn't really read a lot of the New Gods before this, that was something that took me away from it. And it kind of took me away from it here, but it's also used as like, this is their normal lives as being gods, and then you see them compared to taking care of a baby and not wanting to leave their baby. So I liked the comparison and parallels, but it just wasn't as strong as previous issues for me. And the artwork is so good. Tom King has just such a great art collaborators on anything that he works on. Just really great stuff here. And even just some of those beats of like when he's singing a lullaby to his son. Really great stuff that gets, you into this tone and to really make this book distinctive. So I'm giving this 3.5 stars. Moving on to number 12, which is Jughead The Hunger, issue 5. This issue, you know, I will say he also kind of slows things down a bit. We get to see Jughead kind of learn who the other werewolves are, figuring out his past and his connection to werewolves. I really like the ending, though, when they steal Jellybean, so excited to see where that's going to go, and if Jellybean's a werewolf also, because she's part of this family as well, so what's going to happen there. And you just get to see, like, Mr. Weatherby and Veronica being totally evil, which is fun. And then on the flip side, you get to see Archie and Betty dealing with their lives, and Archie not being happy being a werewolf hunter, and telling Betty, I miss the old you, I miss the old us, and I think you enjoyed this a little bit too much. So there's definitely some interesting character moments here to build us up into, I'm sure, an interesting story with Jellybean's kidnapping. And also the artwork I do really like, even though I think there are 2 different artists here. I know Joe Eisma's usually one. Yeah, so usually there's 2 different artists, but it's not as noticeable, which I like. You know, they definitely have their distinctive tones, but it's not jarring where you're like, oh, different artists. It definitely works with this book. So I'm giving that 3.5 stars. Moving on to number 11, which is Superman, issue 45. Yes, it was a big Superman week, as you know. I did review Action Comics issue 1000 with my individual review. But talking about Superman, this is the last chapter of Tomasi and Gleason's run on the character, and I really liked it, honestly. I liked a lot of books, so it kind of seems low, but after this, like, I really enjoyed all the books that came out. So, but this one, I will say it's the artwork that kind of brought it down lower. I'm not a big fan of this kind of anime style, very dark, a lot of inking there, not a fan of it, but I like the story. I thought it was very sentimental, and it wrapped up everything very well of what they've been trying to do with this Superman series. I love that last panel with the Kents that Lois stole their mailbox and brought it into the apartment. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one. I'm giving it 4 stars, and that was number, let's see, that was number 11. Moving on to number 10, which is Action Comics issue 1000. I did get the all red issue because this is nostalgic to me. That's how I got into comics. I was reading this Silver Age type Action Comics, like from the 50s and 60s. So that's how I got into Superman. So I had to get that, and I only got 1 cover. So maybe at like a convention or something I'll get more, but as of right now I'm just getting the 1 Action Comics cover. But yeah, with this issue, I talk a lot more in detail with the in-depth review, so I won't go too much into detail, but I like that it was a good celebration to Superman. I think it really hit all the points of why this character is special, and obviously not just, you know, special in comics, but I think in American literature in general, this is a very important character to our culture. So I enjoyed that, and I think they celebrated him well. I'm not a big fan of like the short story format of annuals, so that's why I couldn't completely get into it, and I think some of the stories kind of, which is weird because they are short stories, they kind of go on for a little while. They had too many pages at times, like Jurgen's story, really liked, but then all those people stepping on stage saying, this is why Superman matters, and you had like 5 people. I'm like, okay, we get the gist, you know? So there's moments like that where I feel like it could have been shorter in ways. So overall, I gave Action Comics issue 1000 4 stars, and that is number 10. Moving on to number 9, which is another DC comic, which is Batman, issue 45. Not my favorite Batman arc so far, because I'm not a Booster Gold fan. But being, you know, not a Booster Gold fan, I did like this story. And I love that opener with Hal Jordan, like, saying, I have the willpower to use my ring to punch myself. I thought that was a lot of fun. Now, I was blocking it, I'm sorry. That's kind of the image over there. And we find out after kind of a confusing narrative by the end that Booster Gold gave the gift to Bruce that he saved his parents. And that's why we have this messed up timeline, and we get to see what Jason's up to, what Tim's up to, and Dick Grayson. And that Bruce is actually not Batman, and he is, I think, getting ready to get married as well. But yeah, I like the story again. Some of the structure I think could have been better here, but I think we're going to get an interesting issue 2, or, you know, part 2 for this story arc. And I like Booster Gold more than I usually do, so I'm going to give this one 4 stars. And once again, the art team, just phenomenal. Just love the artwork in any Tom King book. He just picks really good artists to team up with, so really enjoyed that as well. Alright, moving on to number 8, which is Fence, issue 5. This is a really great book if you like sports stories. It really hits every note you want for a sports story. And it happens here too. You get to see Senjay, who is the main arch nemesis for our main character. He loses a match, and you learn a little bit about the other competitor. I like that this feels like an ensemble book. It's not just about our main character and his woes and worries about the sport. It feels like a team, which is exactly what you need with a sports story. And I liked the coach and our main character's conversation with each other. I love the art style here too, very anime-esque, and embraces Yuri on Ice and Free, those type of stories. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was a really solid book, and like I said, it's just kind of doing everything right with the book so far. So I gave it 4 stars, and that is number 8. Moving on to number 7, which is The Amazing Spider-Man issue 799. Another week, I think this definitely could have made top 5, but there's a lot of good books this week. But The Amazing Spider-Man, for me, is very much a setup issue, but a good setup issue, where I love that Spider-Man's trying to team up with his other Spider family members like Miles and Silk, and I love that Mary Jane was thrown in there too. I appreciated that. And they don't do well, and Peter has to make the decision, do I become Spider-Man again? And he obviously does, because he doesn't want to see the people he cares about hurt. And then Norman kidnaps his grandchild and makes him little baby Carnage. I thought that was really cool. And I love Liz and Norman. And Liz especially here. I love her voice of like, yeah, of course I put a computer chip in my son. I'm a billionaire businesswoman. I want Liz to be a supervillain so bad. I hope that's what they're building up to, because she'd be an awesome supervillain. Again, I love her voice here. So good stuff. Again, mostly just a setup, but a good setup. So I'm going to give this 4 stars. Really great artwork as well. Good action. It does feel a little crowded at times. I guess that would be my only complaint with the artwork. It is definitely a lot going on. But yeah, 4 stars for me, and that is number 7. Moving on to number 6, I believe this is the highest I've given this series, because I've never watched the show, but I love Meredith Finch, and that is Xena, the Warrior Princess, issue 3. And this one, I think, really goes to the core of what's going to make this book successful. From what I hear, it's very similar to the show, and it kind of goes through the motions with the show, but the one thing the show didn't really do is actually have Gabby and Xena together. So this one definitely implies their relationship a lot more, and Gabby's just a fun character. I really like her, and just how she gets under the skin of Xena, who has a very different personality from her. And then the artwork is just so good in this book. That's one thing that really hooked me. The facial expressions, especially, again, between the two personalities of Gabby and Xena, just works out so well. And in the end, Gabby gets kidnapped, so we're going to see how that works, and meets her sister there. So excited to see where that story goes. But yeah, overall 4 stars. Definitely my favorite Xena issue so far. Had a blast reading that one with the chemistry of those 2 characters. Moving on to number 5, which is Cable, issue 156. I'm a big fan of Hope and Cable together, and this one was, I would say, a little jarring just because it was a flashback issue, and I didn't expect that, because the last issue ended on a moment where you're like, okay, cool, Hope and Cable are going to work together, and now we have this flashback issue. On that note, though, why it's so high, I really like this flashback issue. I love the relationship between Hope and Cable here. Hope growing up in this environment. This is how I got into their relationship. And yeah, I thought it was really well done, and I'm sure they're going to connect it more with the actual villain in the next issue. But there's a lot of good moments between those two. So overall, giving that 4 stars. The artwork, I think, works very well for this book as well. So giving that number 5, and that's 4 stars. Moving on to number 4, a little lower than I expected, but again, a lot of good books this week, and that is the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers issue 26. Love this cover. But really it's dealing with the emotions of Tommy's death, and I guess the confirmation that Tommy is dead, and also has to fit in actually bringing in the other Power Rangers. Jen has to explain a lot in this issue, and they have to go off and they find the Red Samurai Ranger. So she comes into the story as well. So that's the reason why it's a little lower. I think, once again, there's a lot of explaining in this book, and I want to see more action. I want to see more dialogue between characters. instead of one character kind of explaining everything, I wanted to see more of a conversation, and I didn't really see that as much, but I really love the artwork here, and I just, you know, as a Power Rangers fan, it's just really cool to see all these different Rangers coming together, and I also think the artist really nails emotions here, especially when Jason starts to break down. I love that. It was so many great emotional beats here that really made the issue for me, and then all the, you know, just the morphing and all that, then, you know, fighting together, I enjoyed. The Lord Drakkon stuff very much feels like villain scenes from Power Rangers, which I never liked. Again, they always felt like exposition scenes, like, I'm gonna do this to the Power Rangers. So I personally don't like those scenes, but it fits the aesthetic of Power Rangers. So I'm gonna give this 4 stars. I did like the first issue a bit more, or the first part, but I still had a lot of fun with this one, obviously, because it is in my top. So giving that 4 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is X-Men Gold, issue 26. If you're a Kitty Pryde fan, if you're a Colossus fan, I think you're going to have a lot of fun here. But also progresses the story of this, you know, the villain kidnapping Colossus and having a plan for him. Something's going to happen with him, so that's fun as well. But they also got to plan this wedding. You get Colossus having his bachelor party, but does he have cold feet? What's going on? And Kitty kind of doing the same thing. They finally set a date. But the Kitty scene I love the most is with her mom. I don't feel like we get enough with Kitty's parents, but when we do, it's always great. Like Wolverine and the X-Men, Kitty ended up going to Japan to save her dad. And then we find out her dad's dead. I don't remember that happening, but I guess it's happened in between... oh no, actually I think it happened a while ago. Right. I'm trying to like think back when he died. But anyways, he died. And you know, this really great moment with Kitty and her mom, and, you know, Kitty says, hey, would you walk me down the aisle? And it's like, oh, you know, that's kind of a guy thing when you want to find someone else. She's like, no, this is, you know, I'm the leader of the X-Men. Come on, this 21st century, I can have my mom walk me down the aisle. And I thought that was a really cute moment that grounds Kitty, because she's got so much other stuff going on. She's been in space, she's been doing this stuff, and you don't really get to see those interactions with her family as much. So it was nice to see, you know, to see their relationship. I don't think we get enough of it. So, also artwork's so good, especially with those flashbacks. And I love that scene where Kitty's like thinking in her mind where she first sees Colossus, like, oh, he's really neat looking. I thought that was just cute. And then Colossus kind of brings up how strange their relationship is, because she did meet him very young. But now they're in a good age range. So, but yeah, really enjoyed this one. I think it got a lot of story here. You got the stuff with Rachel going on, but especially the center is Kitty and Colossus. So X-Men Gold issue 26 gets 4.5 stars, and that is number 3 for me. Moving on to number 2, which is Infidel issue 2. This has been a really surprising series for me. I remember, like, issue 1, it was just, like, kind of like, oh, I guess I'll pick this up, and I loved it. And issue 2 just keeps doing it. You know, I was reading the quotes in the back, and someone, it says, fans of last year's breakout hit Get Out will certainly enjoy this contemporary exploration, and it goes on for the quote. But that was from the Horror News Network, and I completely agree. I couldn't put my thumb on it, or my finger on it, but it's so much like Get Out. You really get to see the racial tension with this book, and they do it so beautifully with this book, especially between our main character and the grandmother. And that's really well done. Just the way the artist and writer works together. It's this tension that they really build, and this suspense. And I remember a long time ago I got a question from somebody asking, like, can you do horror in comics? And I say, hell yeah, you can do horror in comics. This proves it. Like, because obviously with horror movies, it's very much about the music. It's, you know, the score. It's about the timing. And I think this book does it perfectly. Yes, you're not hearing anything, but the way this book is paced as you're reading it, you feel the tension, you feel the suspense, and then you get a really good cliffhanger in this issue where our main character is seeing all these ghost or demon things being dragged out, and she's the only one seeing it, so she thinks she's going crazy, but at the same time, it's like, oh, you know, I might not, you know, she's questioning herself a lot in the issue, but in the end, we get to see she kills the grandmother by accident and hurts her stepdaughter, and obviously not on purpose, so we're going to see how that relationship goes, and I love her relationship with with their stepdaughter and you know, how much they care for each other and how much they have in common. It's really cool to see that. So, and the artwork is just, you know, so good. Just to fit this tone. It's a really good book. It's under the radar. Not enough people are talking about it. Get this book. I gave it 4.5 stars and really can't wait to see where that goes. So moving on to number 1. It's a really obvious one for me. When I read it, I was like, oh my god, I love this book. And that is Ms. Marvel, issue 29. It really, the cover kind of says it all. It's an Archie superhero book in so many ways. And it's about love. Love in different ways. It opens up with her brother and her sister-in-law giving birth to her nephew, and there's that type of love, you know, love just because you're, you know, because of blood, and I thought that was a really good opener. And then you get to see her kiss Red Dagger, and this is like her first kiss, and Bruno sees it, and they have to deal with their emotions. And I love that Miss Marvel and Bruno kind of both realize, oh god, I still care for her. I still like her a lot. I love them. You know, they love each other. So now how do you say it? And they already have a kind of awkward relationship. And then on the flip side, we get to see Zoe meets this girl, and this girl kind of randomly shows up, and she's like head over heels. She's like, oh my god, she's so pretty. And what's so funny about that scene is she's exactly like Zoe used to be. She's just, or at least like a ×5 version of what Zoe used to be as a mean girl. So Zoe like kind of falls in love with herself in a way, and I thought that was hysterical. And then Nakia's like, no, don't fall in love with this girl. And then Bruno's confused because he doesn't know that she's gay. He's like, oh yeah, you know, I'm gay. I used to be vegan too, but that was a phase. I thought that was hysterical. And then we have a really great cliffhanger where we get to see the girl interact. You know, Zoe, of course, is just like, hey, I want to talk to this girl. And the girl has superpowers. So, like, why is she there? What's going on? So much good drama. So much good superhero drama, but at the same time, different types of love, which I really enjoyed here. Also really liked, you know, Miss Marvel, Kamala going to her mosque and axing you know, her, I don't know what the name of it, but not like priest, but you know, I guess the Muslim name for a priest. And she asks him, and he's, you know, she says, hey, I'm in love with this person, but I kissed somebody else, is this wrong? And at first, you know, she thinks that she's gonna get yelled at, and he said, no, you know, I'm glad that you came to me, because I feel like we get to teach you so many things except how to deal with your feelings. I love that scene as well. Just a really great book, and Nico Leon's artwork really fits so well for the tone here. You know, Nico Leon also worked on Hulk, and I really feel like this is the perfect fit, and I hope we get to see their artwork, you know, even more for this series, because it fits for this Archie superhero tone that's going on here. So much good drama. That's exactly when Miss Marvel is perfect, is it integrating the superhero aspect, but also the supporting characters. Really great stuff. So overall, I gave this 5 stars. I love this issue and can't wait to see where this arc goes with all the characters. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, description below, there are links for my comic book, Like Father, Like Daughter. And don't forget to like the Facebook page of Like Father, Like Daughter. And I will see you guys later. Bye.